Hello and welcome to the In General podcast brought to you by Jurassic Outpost. My name's Jack and today is a very special episode. Chris and I are joined with director Colin Trevorrow, who directed Jurassic World and is writer and producer of the upcoming sequel to Jurassic World. So without further ado, here is the interview.
Hello.
Hi, is this Colin?
Yes, it is.
Colin, this is Jack and I'm joined with Chris.
Hey, good morning. Well, afternoon. I presume you're over in London.
I am. Yeah. Where are you?
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So,
Jack, you're out here.
Yeah, I'm on a little island off the coast of the UK, so I'm on the same time as you. It's 12:39.
Fancy.
So, Colin, we just wanted to thank you for coming on to speak with us. You're obviously a very busy man now, attached to a number of projects, as we know, of course, the Jurassic World sequel, and there is another one. I forget the Star Wars.
Right.
So we appreciate you taking the time to come and answer some Jurassic questions today. If you don't mind, we'd love to jump straight in.
Sure. Yeah, it's good to talk to you guys again.
Okay. So after Jurassic World, you moved on to direct The Book of Henry. There's a lot of mystery surrounding the project. Can you share a little about the film for the listeners, or perhaps what it was like making the jump from Jurassic to what we imagine is a much more intimate movie?
It was just something I felt I had to do as a filmmaker. It wasn't really my plan to jump straight to a movie like Jurassic World after Safety Not Guaranteed. And I feel like it's my responsibility to tell original stories and put myself on the line and basically risk total embarrassment and career suicide. And this movie will do that. It's just a great story, and I'd never seen this before. It's a way of doing a suspense thriller that is emotional and goes to some really unexpected places. I can't really compare it to another movie because it is its own thing in the way that Safety was kind of its own thing. But I also wanted to do an acoustic movie. I wanted just something that was unplugged and stripped down and yet still evokes those same thrills and emotions that you get when you have like a full band and a jumbotron and a children's choir and all the things that you can afford. And it's a tough movie to market. It's interesting because it's an independent movie, and so you don't have a bunch of dinosaurs that you can throw on the screen. And the movie works best when you have no idea what you're going to see. So we've been trying to figure out how to get an audience in a theater to come see our movie without giving it all away, which is what most trailers have to do these days, as you guys know.
Yeah.
But we tested it, and we know people love it, so it's just about convincing them to give it a chance. And for me, it's honestly, it's kind of fun to go back to that time where I honestly don't know if anyone's going to come see this movie, and I'm wondering if we can get people to go. And there's something as a filmmaker that we had a feeling people were going to show up for Jurassic World. So
really?
there's
Just
a couple people would show up. So I'm just enjoying that. It's getting back to the roots of why I started to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the movies I'm really looking forward to, even though there's literally like nothing that I know about it, which is actually probably half the reason why I am looking forward to it so much.
Yeah.
Is that sense of mystery is pretty intriguing.
Yeah, I hope we can maintain that for people. That's the one thing. It's I can't think of the last time, and I used to get to do it when I was a kid all the time. But to be able to go to a movie and really have no idea what you were getting into, you almost have to put that upon yourself and make a choice to not, no spoilers and not know anything at all. But
it's difficult now.
It is hard. It is. I know. As a symptom of it, I know how hard it is.
Yeah. It's an interesting outlook on social media. Moving forward, you're obviously working on another movie that we mentioned earlier. It's the Jurassic World sequel. J.A. Bayona is officially tied to direct the sequel. Can you say how involved he is? I know that you guys are writing the script at the moment. Is he more involved with that process? Some people are thinking that it might even lead to a more suspense for a scary movie due to his pedigree of films prior.
Yeah, well, I could tell you. Yeah, I can say that. I mean, it will be more suspenseful and scary, and that's just the way it's designed. It's just the way the story plays out. I knew I wanted Bayona to direct it long before anyone ever heard that was a possibility. So the whole thing was just built around his skill set. And film has become so cutthroat and competitive, and it felt like an opportunity to create a situation where two directors could really collaborate. And it's rare these days, but it's something that the directors that we admire used to do all the time. One of them writes and produces, and the other directs, and the end result is something that's unique to both of them. And so I've been here. I'm in the office right now. I've been here every day since July, working closely with J.A., listening to his instincts, and honing the script with Derek to make sure it's something that all of us believe in.
Absolutely.
That's very exciting. We're all very excited for that. So how has your writing process changed now that you're writing a sequel to one of your movies?
Well, it's on a fundamental level, we were able to build it from the ground up. And last time we came onto this movie, that it had been in development for 12 years, and there had been all kinds of iterations. And even though we wrote the screenplay, it was still based on Steven's story, some key ideas that he had, which were the pillars of what we ultimately built. And this time it's different. We were able to approach it together from the very beginning. And the needs of this movie are different. Jurassic World had to restart the engine, and I know it's hard for guys like us to imagine, but for a lot of people, a whole generation of people, introduced Jurassic Park. This one has to make a case for itself in another way. We're all cynical about sequels, and we probably grow more cynical every year. So this also has to prove that it has a reason to exist, beyond just making more money. And I believe it does. I think there's a real story to be told here, and more that was all that's all really sourced from Crichton's original ideas that can be expanded on.
That's I love the idea of really kind of building off of Crichton's work, just even the concepts and ideas. He really built a really big, almost kind of expansive universe to kind of build on those themes, even not necessarily even the writing that he did, but just the themes that he built kind of have a lot of potential to continue to evolve and move on.
Yeah, I think the thing I love the most about what he introduced is this idea that I think it's so prevalent in our world today, that a mistake made a long time ago just can't be undone. When we look at even the wars that exist, the things that we're dealing with, these are all things that began long ago with choices that were made, and you can't put it back in the box. And to be able to relate that to this world, the minute that they cloned a dinosaur, you can't put that back in the box. And what could be the ultimate result of that? And it was suggested in the first movie. I know I've talked about that before in other interviews, but there's so much. Those movies are so rich, and the book itself is so rich, and it is great to go back. I saw his wife recently, and when I was at Amblin, and she is so deeply happy that not just that the movie succeeded, but that people still care about this set of ideas that her husband put forward. It was really beautiful to talk to her.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's great. I mean, they're just such fantastic books to read, and as you've said, there's so much you can pull from them, even just lines or dialogue from the characters in there that could lead on to such a ginormous story outside of that.
I got some. Yeah, we do have a little bit of dialogue from the first book in this movie, and I got fun. It makes me feel like such a good writer. Be typing that, and I imagine that's how Kep felt when he wrote the first movie. There's a lot of dialogue from the books in Jurassic Park, and you write out that paragraph, and like, well, look at me. That's a hell of a sentence, isn't it? But it's funny is, and I know you guys probably recognize this more than others because you're so familiar with the source material, but things that we did in Jurassic World that I imagine at first blush would seem just completely bananas. We're from the books. I mean, there is a sequence with a guy riding a motorcycle with raptors. It may not have been the same context, but we didn't completely make that up. And it's part of what I love about it too, is how he's able to make stuff that seems so completely bonkers feel real. And feel like it's motivated and it has some sense to it, which is really hard as someone couched with creating these large movies that are at their very core bananas, to be able to make them feel like something that could happen in our world is one of the hardest things you have to do in screenwriting.
And you know, honestly, I think that's something that the Jurassic franchise is particularly successful at for the most part. I think that it takes really large ideas and just makes them real, and it makes it feel like it's part of our world, and that's unique.
Yeah, and we're trying to. We keep that in mind so much, and I think Jurassic World it skirted the line, and I think we're looking at this. One of the key the key motivations that we have is not thinking that we need to make it bigger necessarily for it to be equally compelling to people. I don't think that bigger, better dinosaurs or bigger, more epic in scope action sequences are what people are necessarily looking for from this franchise and what they love about it. I think that it's just as thrilling to have a kid sitting next to a soup ladle that might fall and hit the ground, as it is to have a genetically modified dinosaur run away from an exploding helicopter. Arguably more exciting, the first one.
Not to make the most awkward of transitions and segues here, but I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about practical effects. I'm not sure if you've seen the video that got a lot of buzz, I think like 2 weeks ago or so, but it was from Mad Max. It was really cool because you saw like how much they shot practical and then actually how much they added with CG and how well it worked together. And there was actually a surprising amount of practical. And the Jurassic franchise is known for having a lot of practical effects. A lot of animatronic dinosaurs, I think, is what people really feel a sense of loyalty to. Jurassic World had the Apatosaurus in it. I was wondering if we could maybe expect a little bit more from the sequel, if that's something that's still on the table, because that was a scene that I think a lot of people really loved, and I think the animatronic helped with that sense of intimacy.
Yeah, the scene that was really important to me, and just because of the budgetary requirements of that particular movie, because nobody trusted me at all yet, and so it wasn't a massively budgeted film. I mean, certainly if you compare it to most films, it is, but we had to be very judicious, and so I got that one, and in this one, that's one of the rewards of success is that I know we're going to be able to afford to make different decisions in certain places. So there will be animatronics for sure. We'll follow the same general rule as all of the films in the franchise, which is the animatronic dinosaurs they're best used when standing still or moving at the hips or the neck. They can't run or perform complex physical actions. And anything beyond that, you go to animation. And the same rules applied in Jurassic Park. I think the lack of animatronics in Jurassic World had more to do with the physicality of the Indominus, the way the animal moved. And then it was very fast, fluid, and it ran a lot and needed to move its arms and legs and its neck, its tail all at once. And it wasn't a lumbering creature. We've written some opportunities for animatronics into this movie because it has to start at the script level. And I could definitely tell you that Bayona has the same priorities. He is all about going practical whenever possible. And a lot of the things that are practical in Jurassic World, which had fewer visual effects shots than a lot of the other movies that are mentioned when they talk about practical filmmaking, we always made sure that the animals were making contact with something real. Whenever you see a light pole fall over and sparks fly, or even our explosions, those were, we did really blow up a model helicopter. You don't know. These things tend to, hopefully, they just kind of, get woven into the quilt in a way that you're not necessarily thinking about it, but. That stuff does matter, and especially just when you have a CG dinosaur, when it touches something, when it knocks a tree over, that tree's got to be real, or else you're in a lot of trouble.
That's actually, I think it does work. I mean, I loved the Indominus Rex, even just being an all CG creature, which CG can get a bad rep online, simply because people love practicals. Yeah, the Indominus, everything about her movements, that animal, I really love the Indominus.
Yeah,
they were beautiful. It was just beautifully animated, and that's I do tend to cringe at it a little bit. I bristle at it a bit just because these the men and women who animate these animals are such geniuses at what they do, and it's an art unto itself. And the team that made the Indominus won an award within their world of visual effects. They won an award specifically for that animal and its movement, and they deserved it. And that same team is now looking at ways to mocap a rhinoceros and an elephant, and finding ways to actually use motion capture with real animals to get movement that's that much more authentic and goes beyond the traditional motion studies and skeletal studies they do when they're making the dinosaurs.
That's brilliant. And I think the Indominus Rex as well, I mean, they deserved the award. There were some shots in the movie, namely close-ups, where we genuinely thought that it was an animatronic. Like when Chris was under the car.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the place where I had to make the decision, because all those shots you're talking about are the ones, and I could probably name them off because those were the ones that I debated whether or not to build an Indominus. And it was when you got into the close-ups of the slow-moving head, that was when their work was the best, and I just couldn't tell. The stuff at night, when the raptors catch up with the Indominus and that profile at night in the jungle, that thing just looks real. And I also gave them some specific directions in the animation to animate it like it was a robot. And so when you were up close to it, it wasn't really going to do anything that it wouldn't be able to do if it was an animatronic. And I think that ultimately helped as well. But again, we created a creature that was very hard to build, and also one that we didn't completely have locked down as far as how the details of its face were going to look while we were shooting the movie. That's one of the other advantages of all the other movies. You're dealing with real dinosaurs that actually existed, so you can lock your T-Rex, you can build it, it's going to match up with everything else. The Indominus, as a created animal, was going through a process, an evolutionary process, even over the course of production. Especially when you get down to the details of facial textures and how big the little horns are and all this stuff that you deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's cool. There's some concept art of its different evolutions, and I think it's pretty cool just to take a look. And you can see how the design locked in pretty early, but it continued to evolve, and it really just gained its character as each evolution continued. It finally became the Indominus Rex. It became a memorable character, even though the skeleton still remained earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to take Jay through that process as we're working now, and there are new dinosaurs in the movie, but species that are real, that existed but we haven't seen before, and so to be able to go into the paleo art and look at all these different incarnations of these animals, because nobody knows exactly what any of them look like, and I know that we have our own side controversies on that issue, but to be able to go in and not just define what we want our Jurassic Park version of a dinosaur to look like, but really make sure that it looks like a Jurassic Park dinosaur. And there's a very specific there's a look to Stan Winston's dinosaurs that is very clearly identifiable, and if you go too far away from it, it starts not to feel like Jurassic Park. They're characters to me. I do consider them characters. I actually remember I read a review of the movie that presented that as a criticism of me, where it was like, Mr. Trevorrow seems to care about the dinosaurs as much as the people. I was like, I'm kind of guilty. I'm guilty on that one,
Side controversies on dinosaurs. This one, no matter which way you're going to sway, you're going to get some interesting dialogue. What about feathers? Yeah. Not on all of them, but is that a potential possibility?
We looked, to me, and this goes all the way back to Crichton, and we addressed it in the movie in Jurassic, and Dr. Wu says it, is, look, these are not dinosaurs. These are theme park creations. And, even though that was I feel like that scene was specifically for, that was a very Crichton-y kind of scene, if that's even a word. But, if it is now, and, if they were accurate, they would actually look quite different, but that's not what you wanted. You wanted more teeth. And to me, the narrative value, the story value of that, it's so interesting that's that we are creating these things that are all kind of bastardizations of science themselves. And yet, whether or not that will evolve and change over the course of the films, I can't tell you. We shall see.
All right.
So tracking back to Jurassic World just for a second, could you tell us, now everyone's waiting on this question, but could you tell us what happened with the Estock sign that you teased on Twitter before the film's release?
Yeah, there was a moment in the movie where the veterinary vehicle that Claire is driving goes past an old sign, right?
Yeah.
And we had two of them, and one of them said E-Stock, and the other one, I think it said research in the movie.
Yes.
And I ended up choosing research because to me it suggested there was even more of the old park that we had never seen or weren't even told of, and it just expanded the world. And Estock felt more like something for the fans, and I only wanted to do that kind of thing if it also had value in the story we were telling. And it just felt a little extraneous to me, but I couldn't help myself, so I took a picture of it and put it up on Twitter because it's fun, and that's what who was intended for in the first place. But yeah, that's the story.
Well, that's completely
it's never as
understandable.
entertaining a story.
With the picture of it, it was lying in the ground, so I guess we assumed people were going to stumble across the old E-Stock sign that Nedry had run over.
Right. Yes, I know. That was fun, wasn't it?
It was fun.
That's probably always fun to see. That actually kind of leads me into my next thing, but it's probably always fun to see how people react to things on social media, which can be both overwhelmingly positive or overwhelmingly negative because of its like echo chamber nature, and
right.
it's got its pros and cons. But was that any of that surprising, or what was it like dealing with all the positive and negative feedback, and maybe dealing with some of the surprising dialogue around perhaps like Zara's death or Claire's heels?
Right. I feel like an idiot to say that I didn't expect it, but that's just the truth. None of us did. And when you have a movie that plays to such a wide audience, it's just inevitable that some of your choices, if you make choices at all, are going to be interpreted differently than you intended by segments of the audience. And my job is to be aware of all those perspectives and figure out where to land, because I have to entertain everyone. I have to entertain an 8-year-old in Australia and a 25-year-old in Brooklyn and a 40-year-old in Beijing, and then like a whole retirement home in Florida. And I have to entertain that they all deserve to be entertained. And yet they see the world in different ways. And so it was interesting for me just to observe. I was in France with my family for most of that summer. It's where they are, and those issues weren't even on the radar. The same things that led to like critical think pieces in parts of America were actually considered a strength by people elsewhere in the world, even elsewhere in our country. And I definitely just failed to predict some of the ways that people were going to see it. But I hope, gosh, what should I say on this? I hope that people who took issue with Claire's characterization were able to see our intention in the same way that I understand their perception. I set out to make a movie with a female hero who is flawed and complex, who makes a crucial mistake of trusting technology over her instincts, whose respect for these animals evolves and changes her in a major way, and who saves everyone at the end while they're all trapped and helpless, and she does it all in heels, and not by choice, but because she had no other option, and she wasn't going to let uncomfortable shoes stop her from being a total badass and getting shit done. And that's where we came from. and Zara, like if we're gonna address each of these, and I can only just be, I'm a pretty earnest person. I can only just be honest and tell you where I was coming from. And Zara was about trying to surprise moviegoers who I think can see everything coming. We're all screenwriters. And an earned death, that's a screenwriting term. And to me, unearned death is the definition of terror. And it's kind of what we're dealing with in the world right now, is a lot of unearned death that horrifies us. And Sam Jackson didn't deserve to get his arm ripped off. He didn't do anything to anybody. But that moment told you that nobody was safe. The movie was going to shock you. And Amblin movies used to do that. And I loved it. I remember when that guy got his heart ripped out in the Temple of Doom, and my parents were just in shock. And I thought it was awesome, and I couldn't believe I got to see it. And maybe it's selfish, but I wanted to provide that feeling for kids today, because I think it's part of what makes us all miss our childhood so much. That seeing something we probably shouldn't get to see. And I wouldn't apply that idea to anything but an Amblin film. It's just something very specific that some of those movies did, and that's what it was.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I think your quote about Claire, I think that's the quote right there. She's badass, and she just wants to. She's not going to let heels stop her from getting shit done. That's the quote.
There was a time in my life where I would just talk and it wouldn't be a quote. I was just a person talking, and I have to realize now that, oh shit, everything I say,
everything's a quote.
Remember when I was just a person talking?
So you've talked a little bit about Jurassic World in the past, and in other interviews as well. And you mentioned how it can't just be about the sequel can't just be about people running away from dinosaurs in parks on islands, as that's been done. Right. But now, obviously, Frank Marshall has confirmed that the sequel is returning to Hawaii, which is fantastic. A lot of people are excited to see that return. But could you say if that's the primary location, or how it can be creatively different to the past movies?
It is a primary location, but not the. We're going to shoot in Hawaii for part of the story, and I think there's kind of a misconception that I saw that the movie takes place in the UK, because our production's based in the UK. We are prepping here, and our sound stages are here. But that's a little bit more about the fact that Jay lives in Spain, and my second job is over here, and I wanted to be close by, and there's a lot of other a lot of movies shoot here. Star Wars doesn't take place in the United Kingdom either. So we're our sound stages are here, but it doesn't mean there's going to be dinosaurs rampaging through London. And beyond that, I don't want to say more, because I honestly, I know Bayona wants to preserve the experience for people as much as he can, and I completely understand how he feels. I have been there, so it's not going to be from me that any of those reveals come.
Yeah, that's understood.
That's completely understood. I just got to ask though, as far as Hawaii goes, is it Kauai or Oahu?
I know you guys know enough about this stuff that if I told you, you know exactly where we were going and why.
No. Okay, that's fair. That makes sense.
There.
We'll be on a series of islands in the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned you don't want to, go into this too much and let JA maybe have some of these reveals, but I was wondering if you can maybe elaborate on this. In the past, you talked about you like the idea of maybe not even in the sequel, but just a world where the thought of dinosaurs becoming open source. And where the first instinct is to weaponize dinosaurs, and then afterwards other aspects are explored. I'm wondering if that's something that you're still looking into, and perhaps does that mean that the militarized plot has run its course and we're going to see the evolution of where to take dinosaurs next, or if we're just not really anticipating the sequel story in the way that we would think?
I could just say, as the writer of the thing, where my interests lie, and I'm not that interested in militarized dinosaurs, at least not in practice. I liked it in theory as the pipe dream of a lunatic, but
it's a great MacGuffin.
Yeah, when that idea was first presented to me as part of an earlier script, it was something that the character that ended up being Owen was for, that he supported, and something he was actively doing even at the beginning. And Derek and I, one of our first reactions was, no, if anyone's going to militarize raptors, that's what the bad guy does, and he's insane. But to me, it's just one part of how we coexist with animals on the planet. We've militarized them throughout history, elephants and horses and dogs and dolphins, and it's just an example of human overreach in the way that we might use the extinct creatures, to our advantage. So something like, Jurassic World War feels like a cartoon to me. I might watch that cartoon with my kid, but I wouldn't make it. And my interest in this story, and I guess maybe this offers some clues, is to look at our relationship with animals and how we've used and abused them, and what that relationship says about us, how we share the planet with other living things. To me, in everything that Crichton did, and there's suggestions of, the militarization, and there's also suggestions of open source and proliferation, and I lean toward that second idea, because I think ultimately, we've seen the movie about don't mess with science, and we've seen the movie about how corporate greed can put the needs of a few over the needs of many, and now I'm interested in exploring further, like, our relationship with other living creatures on this earth, and how we can use dinosaurs as a parable for that.
That's very exciting.
Yes.
I'm sure everybody listening is slightly relieved that Jurassic World War may not become a reality just yet. So
don't discourage them from making cool art and stuff.
Yeah, I've always said to make a great
with guns on their heads. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it, but
it's fun. It's fun looking at, and especially in, like you said, the context of a cartoon or comic. It's a total 90s cartoon or comic theme,
exactly.
And there is a novelty to that when it comes to just the speculation in art and kind of goofy ideas that kind of evolve from it.
And it's undeniably awesome, but it's not necessarily in the context of. I just feel like to get Jurassic Park to a place like that, you'd need 6 movies of things changing to get to a place where that kind of reality would fit with, our reality.
Yeah. Well, that is good to know. So we know that Jurassic World was always planned. There was always going to be another 3 films. But how much of the story arc was laid out before Jurassic World's release for the whole trilogy?
I knew the end of it all. I knew the end point and where the story could go, and I knew who I wanted to direct the second one. That really was a very old idea, long before I was done doing the movie. Because I suggested him, before the first movie came out, and I just think he's the right mind for this. And the way I look at the second one is that kids who saw the first movie will be 3 years older in 2018. And if you saw Jurassic World when you were 9, you're 12. When this one comes out, and I know to us the past 3 years, that was just yesterday. But the difference between 9 and 12 is an eternity.
It's big.
And so, I'm watching my own kids grow up and how their needs and in their entertainment is changing, and I know that that generation of kids will be ready for something different. So this one's for 12-year-olds to take their younger siblings to and watch them scream their heads off. That's why we're bringing in the Spanish horror director.
Absolutely.
I did plant that. I'm sure that there was some interview. It
was with Empire,
time ago.
I
said I want to see a Spanish horror director's Jurassic. That was well before the movie came out.
Yeah. It's funny. Some people even landed on Bayona. They had there were a lot of guesses out there, but Bayona was one of those kind of underdogs that some people are like, I bet you it's Bayona. Not everyone was rallying behind it because a lot of people just did not know of him. They were going for I think one of the bigger ones Guillermo del Toro that people had guessed. But when people are like, oh yeah, Bayona, that would be it's a good pick.
We talked about it, Chris. I think we even spoke about it. Yeah,
and it kind of clicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, especially if and I don't want to give anything away, but the structure of the first movie it was like Beatles' Day in the Life, where it just gets bigger and bigger, and then a big final chord. That was the screenplay structure of that movie in my mind, and what I love about Jurassic Park, and it was very different structure in that Jurassic Park had its biggest sequence in the middle, and then it went just down into this really tight funnel. And it got very, very claustrophobic and intimate and personal for the ending, and that is a model that obviously worked very well, and that I'm really interested in. And it feels like J.A. is somebody that is going to be perfect for something like that.
Oh, that's brilliant. So, closing off, is there any last thing that you can share about what the future holds for Jurassic World and Jurassic Park fans? We're obviously all here, very eager to hear news about the sequel. Obviously, you've revealed some stuff already, but is there anything you could, we could use for a quote?
That you could use for a quote. I feel like it. I'll let J.A. tell you about it when he's ready, and it's, I'm actually looking at him. Oh, there he is. You guys want to talk to him? He's right here. I'm looking at him right now. Hold on a second.
That would be amazing.
Come in. So, this is a podcast with deep Jurassic Park fans, We've been talking for a while, but I said that I saw you and I wanted you to say hi. All right, J.A. Bayona.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, thanks
How are you?
Pretty good yourself.
Very good, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for jumping in on this. We're super excited for the sequel, and Colin's been...
Me too.
Yeah, it must be super exciting. Yeah.
This is kind of a interesting note to kind of close off on, but yeah, we've just been kind of talking Jurassic, and we're really excited about what the future might hold.
Wait a minute, because I'm trying to put this on the speaker so we can both listen to the conversation.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here it is.
Hello?
All right.
Oh, yeah, good. So, say it again.
We've just been kind of chatting Jurassic, and we're very excited about what the future might end up holding. It sounds like there's a lot of intriguing promise kind of on the horizon.
It is, yes.
Just don't give them anything. Be really vague. And try to form your sentences in ways that will reveal nothing.
No. Okay, good. So no surprises here then.
You could give us one thing. What's the one thing you're most excited to be able to do with Jurassic World 2?
I think not revealing anything. I think I was very surprised about where Colin is leading the story. I think I like the idea of somehow having a lot of things that you don't expect, but at the same time it's very respectful with the tradition and the legacy. So, and I think it's a combination that makes it feel very exciting, because you have the feeling that you're taking part from a legacy of films and following the same tradition, but there are things that you really don't expect. I can tell you. I mean, I was very surprised when the first time Colin pitched me the story, and it's very exciting.
Well, we're really excited as well.
Yeah, to say the least, we're really anticipating just learning more about the film as time goes on. In an official kind of manner, hopefully news. We're hoping for some news, I guess, at some point soon.
I think as well. I think I've got to ask, when might we know the title of the movie?
I don't know. We don't have a moment that they're going to... We know what it is. That's all I can tell you.
Well,
okay.
That's at least exciting to know going forward, that there is definitely a definitive title, and eventually... It's a mystery when we'll learn it, but hey, it's out there.
It is. We'll go, and I guess it's where I can plug for you. Definitely go see J.A.'s movie, The Monster Calls. It's
yeah, we can't wait.
It looks fantastic.
We really can't wait to see that.
Yeah, no, that will make you understand that much more why he's the right guy for this movie.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, I mean, Chris, unless you have anything else?
No, I mean, I think that we've definitely run our course and ran a little longer than what we promised that we would try to trim it down to. So I think that we could probably stay here talking all day and have a giant dissertation about Jurassic, but we should probably call it quits while we're ahead here.
Yeah. Well, Colin, we want to really thank you for coming on to speak with us. We really appreciate it. We've been very excited for this, and for getting Mr. Bayona in. Thank you so much again. That's,
You're welcome.
That's pretty exciting. That's amazing. So,
all right,
thank you so much.
Back to work.
Nice to meet you guys.
Take care.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks for taking your time out.
All right, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Wow.